fit all this stuff in, including regular rooms, offices, exercise facilities, let's just call it a yoga room for lack of better things, an art room, a lobby. I can't use the word really locker rooms, we call it changing stations. We're really not allowed to do showers anymore, but all that kind of stuff. Plus, and then this is it, we have a lot of questions we don't know the answer to. Do we want to have a second floor? Do we want to make it bigger? Do we want to have a field house? Do we want to make it an emergency shelter? This is something that came up, which is maybe a good idea, we don't know, because we don't know what it adds to the price. So,
Just a point of clarification. Where we are now is we've submitted an RFP, a request for proposal, actually a request for qualifications, sorry, to a number of architects. We then scored their qualifications, not their design, not anything yet, and we've chosen the top 5 that we plan to call in to get their vision of what they would do with that space. Before we do that, we wanted to get input, obviously more input from the community, to find out what the current themes are, and then we will meet as a committee to talk about the feedback and decide, you know, what parameters we might want to alter in giving the final bid to the architect. So this is a public hearing. This is not meant for a question and answer with the panelists here. We're here to listen to you, to get your feedback and your input, and we will take that information and then utilize it accordingly.
one more thing. Let me just give you some of the, not to feel our pain, but an example of some of the questions that and comments we've gotten, okay? DET people, and the DET people know this. Why is it taking so long? Get going. Don't miss this cycle. Don't build a boring facility. Field conditions are a major problem. Be mindful of the BET budget. Don't be mindful of the BET budget. If you go over the budget, where is that money going to come from? The assumption might be other recreational projects. But what are the other recreational projects? A new hockey rink. We have 3 placeholders right now for upgrading middle school fields and the Greenwich High School sports facility upgrade. Those are big deals. A couple more. Make sure we have a latte bar. Remember that we're in a competitive environment. Compare our municipal facilities to other towns. Don't compete with the other exercise facilities like Sportsplex and those places, which are relatively inexpensive. Include turf. Don't include turf. Dome the tennis courts. Preserve the facade. It's historic. Seek corporate sponsors. We know that. We know that. Okay, so
I just jotted down a couple of quick notes. Scott covered everything, and then we'll start taking questions. Just a reminder, when you bring up your questions, it's a community civic center, not just a sports place. But of course, sports is a big part of what goes on there. As Scott said, this project has been around forever. This is probably the closest that we've ever gotten to moving ahead. This is as far as we've gotten. Timing and money is really important. We're competing with other things. We're competing with a hockey rink. Before you know it, there's going to be talk about what's going to go on at the high school. So for money, we're competing against a lot of other places in town. As Scott said, the budget is $15 million, give or take, but keep that number in mind, because if you come up and you have an idea for something that's $30 million, there's a lot of questions that go into that. The biggest one is, where's the money going to come from? We're going to have a great ability to improve. And the most important thing, just because I know we have a lot of field users here tonight, the fields that are next to there are not the issue that we're going to discuss tonight. This is solely about the Civic Center. And I know a lot of people are like, well, how about the fields next door? That just isn't in this budget. Fixing those fields might cost as much as it would be to do this. So tonight we're talking about the building itself. And with that, shall we start? Yes. Anybody have anything to say? Let's call up our first. Nancy Raymer, and we're going to do about, we said 3 minutes. I think we'll do 2.5 to 3 minutes because we got quite a few people tonight. So Nancy Raymer, to be followed by Peter Yuri.
Could you turn on, I think you have to turn on the mic. There's a switch on the back.
It's cutting into your time. You better hurry up.
I've reset the clock. We're not animals. Here's this.
Can you hear me?
Speak loud.
Loud, okay. Thank you for having us. My name is Nancy Raymer. I live in Riverside across from the Riverside School. I have lived here since 1974. I have raised 2 children here and use that facility for childcare, post-baby exercise class in the bowling area, attending the annual pancake event, dancing class for my children, soccer. I have used it, I think, for about everything that it's possible to use it for, and I was on the OGRCC for 4 years. Basic facts here. The present square footage, as I understood it at the February 26th meeting, is 32,000 square feet. We had an architect who said at one of the meetings that there was available 96,000 square feet in FAR calculation. There is presently parking of 224 spaces. That is beyond any other spot in this town and extremely important, and I want to be sure you keep that in mind because the number of events that come there that pack that parking lot and can't do it anywhere else in this town is significant, and I believe many of those organizations, if there wasn't a leaky roof until recently, would still be coming there. Sorry, to try to be very quick. As I read the executive summary, there were 2 pieces to the statistical data. One was what would people like to have, and a different one was what do people think is needed there. And I want to focus your attention on the what do they think is needed there, because that's not a wish list. That's a perception of the town. And the first one at 49% of the people was event rooms. The second one at 44% was fitness and wellness. And the third one, and I didn't write the percentage, but I believe it was in the high 30s, was adapted sports and fitness. And I think that data should be paid attention to. That's the voice of people who bothered to fill out your survey. And I think that the summary also talked about the sports, about the ability of adding fitness as being cost effective because it could be used to generate a lot of income.
Okay, that's time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Peter, Yuri, followed by Tom Casazzo, sorry. And I've never done this before, so I don't want to be rude, but at the 2-minute, 45-second mark, I'm just going to say 15 seconds so everybody knows they have left.
Don't do that.
I have no choice.
Peter, could you spell your last name?
Yeah. So my name's Peter Yuri. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Good. All right. We'll try and talk loud. I've been a resident of Old Greenwich for 42 years and was obliged to move after Sandy to Riverside in March 2013. And my family have been active users, as Nancy mentioned, of the deteriorating Civic Center since we came to Greenwich in 1972. I think the first event I remember was going to the circus in the parking lot. And who remembers that? No. Shows how old I am. Anyway. All right. I'm delighted that the renovation of this facility is going to happen. And I hope it does happen. And it's long overdue. And I hope that you as a committee, I'll add this at this point, do a better job than you have of saying where you have been in the progress of your deliberations. I think you've been relatively negligent about doing that. The condition of the space is appalling. Bathrooms are ancient. The former stage is now used to store soccer nets. Locker rooms and the rooms on the second floor are less used by residents and more for equipment storage and administration of the OGRCC. So my feeling is that there should be a balance in what goes on in the Civic Center. I think it's appalling that the Retired Men's Association has to have their Hearts game out in the lobby. I think that it's unfortunate that the current space is being used for equipment storage. I think that'll be cleared out and put in pods. My family are strong advocates for a balance between the sports use of the building as well as other kinds of activity for community purposes. We object to a hockey rink. We oppose a swimming pool. These facilities exist in other places nearby. We just have a new pool. Let's let that sort of settle down, and besides, it's going to add dramatically to the cost if you start to consider building that. And you've not taken into consideration, if I understand it correctly, that there is a bog in the north end of that property. There is a federal environmental impact report in which I participated in the middle 70s. It still exists.
20 seconds.
Thank you. And I'd suggest you look at that because it will be problematic building there. So what we favor as a family is a balanced civic center. Hearing Scott speak this evening already, he's talking more about sports. I'd like to see sports plus, and I'd like to see the second floor built. I think those who say, oh, it's the cost of an elevator on a monthly basis, the heck with that. You've got one shot.
That's time. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. All right, we have Tom Casazano, followed by Angie Schmidt. Tom, I'm sorry. I'm butchering your name. I apologize. And I'm Italian. I should know better.
Yeah, it's all right. So my name is Tom Casazone. I'm the executive director of the OGRCC, which I've served for about a year now. In addition to working at the OGRCC, I'm a longtime resident of Greenwich, homeowner here, living here for the greater part of the past 33 years. And now I'm raising 4 kids with my wife, ages 7, 5, 4, and 3. So there's going to be a series of some OGRCC specific people coming, so I just wanted to give a little bit of background before they all get up here so they don't have to talk about it. But many of you know, but the OGRCC's mission is to promote a sense of community in Greenwich by providing recreational, athletic, educational, and social programs. We have over 1,800 member families. By my count, this represents probably close to 12% of the entire town, 40% of the zip code members of Old Greenwich, Riverside, and Cos Cob. This is the primary users of the EGCC, so hopefully a viable census of kind of what the members and the community want in the building. Last year alone, we registered children and adults in over 6,000 activities, ranging from sports like baseball, soccer, rugby, to more creative indoor space use like art, dance, fitness, and girls leadership. And as many of you probably know, we run various community events either at the building or in surrounding areas like Binney Park or participating in the Memorial Day Parade. In order to operate, we rely on tons of partnerships, the most important of which is with the town. We work in a building and rent space from a building that's operated by the town. We're on the phone on a daily basis with Parks and Rec people talking about our fields. We spend over $150,000 a year on town uses, whether it's rent payments, field user payments, or other rentals for other facilities. We even contributed $100,000 towards the Binney Park's restoration project maybe a decade ago or 5 years ago. In addition to that, though, because the building is essentially insufficient to meet our demands as well as the community's demands, we are spending over $100,000 a year on outside private facilities that we could be spending with the town of Greenwich. It's just that the current amenities at the building cannot fully accommodate the needs of our membership and the community. Just in summary, we would love to see a new building actually built, a building that's multi-purpose, accessible for all, and expanding upon the building's current capacity that would meet the needs of our membership as well as the greater Greenwich community. We hope that you all and the town will at least consider a larger building that allows for additional indoor space and outdoor space for either fields, gyms, event spaces, as well as multi-purpose rooms that actually serve the purpose in a safe fashion for dance, for art, for meetings, and various other community events. Thank you.
Thank you. Angie Schmidt, followed by Alicia Collier.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for listening to the community this evening. My name is Angie Schmidt. I'm a managing director at a global financial services firm. I have 2 elementary age kids, a son and a daughter, who've participated in a variety of OGRCC programs, including soccer, baseball, sandpipers camp, and art. I've personally coached 2 seasons of girls rec soccer and have team managed 2 years for boys travel soccer. The OGRCC recently conducted its own survey to help determine what the community desires in the new building. We received over 700 responses, predominantly from current members, about 85% of the responses, and also consistent with our membership, excuse me, about 90% were from folks living in Old Greenwich, Riverside, Cos Cob, and North Mianus. Interestingly, a majority of our members did not realize that the OGRCC rents the space from the town, an often misunderstood but valuable relationship, as having space is crucial to the OGRCC's ability to manage the organization and ultimately offer quality programming to the community. Also, over 94% said the building is in either poor or fair condition. Maybe not a big surprise, but I think the community is greatly appreciative that the town is really taking action to replace it. What we found is the survey indicated our members participate in a wide variety of activities, sports, performing arts, volunteerism, fitness, and the like. And what we focused on, one key question was, what are the desired amenities in the EGCC? The top choices included a multi-use field house, basketball courts, indoor fitness and wellness, indoor gym, an ice rink, indoor baseball, softball, and training space, and event space, as well as maintaining outdoor amenities like the playground and tennis courts. And we'd be happy to provide you all the details of the survey. Also, we received several comments, hundreds of comments, in fact, which provided great insight into what our members want, some of their concerns, and yielded some really great ideas, which you'll hear from various folks from the OGRCC this evening. I just want to say the OGRCC is highly interested in providing input and working with the town to ensure the new EGCC is the most beneficial for the community and its interests. We strongly feel that the town has the opportunity and perhaps the obligation to create a facility that will be well utilized now and into the future. To that end, you'll hear tonight we're requesting the consideration of a flexible multi-use space, which would include a field house and/or a second gym, as well as meeting rooms and lounge spaces, as Tom described, for various other activities.
30 seconds.
This space could be designed to accommodate a wide variety of sports, fitness, camps, and performing arts activities. Also allow for events, including dinners, allowing for multiple activities to occur at the same time. We are not advocating for a pool or ice rink due to the potential cost and the fact that there are already other town facilities that address these amenities. You will hear from various OGRCC representatives in more detail. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Alicia Collier, followed by Merritt McDonald.
Thank you. My name's Alicia Collier. I am an employee of the OGRCC, and I'm also a 10-year resident of Old Greenwich. I'm here tonight. I fully understand that this meeting is about the building, but I'm here to really urge the town to find room in the budget to really think about combining the efforts of redoing the Civic Center building in conjunction with the fields for 3 specific reasons. 1, it's going to be more economical and cost-effective. 2, it's going to be less disruptive to the community and the neighborhood. And 3, it's better for the environment. As Angie mentioned, the survey that was done, and despite the fact that we'd said in the survey and that you said in this meeting that this is not about the fields, we found that over 50% of our 700 respondents in the survey mentioned the fields as being a major concern. And I would guess that probably about 50% of the people in this room are here because they are concerned with the fields. So what I want to say is that either way, when the building is under construction, basically you're going to have heavy equipment. You're going to have to deal with thinking about drainage issues. There's going to be disruption to the parking lot and the surrounding area, so let's do it one time and do it right. So instead of addressing just the building at this time and then coming back in a few years and thinking about the fields at the Civic Center, I really would urge the town to address the building and the fields at the same time. Let's keep our kids and families and adults playing outside. Let's keep them playing in Greenwich, and let's keep that money in Greenwich. Addressing the building without addressing the field is short-sighted and will only cost the town more time and more money in the long run. Thank you.
Merritt McDonald, followed by Elizabeth Coelho.
Hi, thank you. I'm Merritt McConnell. I've lived in Riverside for 15 years, and I have 4 children ranging in ages from 9 to 15. Our family has been active users of the Civic Center for sports, children's classes, and all sorts over the years. My 2 middle children have played for the town's Thunder soccer programs and now play for the Greenwich United soccer teams organized by the OGRCC. I'm the manager for both of these travel soccer teams, one for my daughter, my son, and therefore responsible for communicating all scheduling changes to the parents of the children on these teams. For my daughter's team this spring, 4 of our 8 games were canceled and had to be rescheduled due to town fields being closed. For my son's team, all 7 home games had to be relocated because the field they were supposed to play on was closed. The same thing goes for practices, with Central being closed all season. And we even have a few players on my daughter's team who are leaving the Greenwich program because they want a consistent program where they can offer an indoor facility when there are weather issues, which obviously we can't control. I'm here to plead the case for turf in the new Civic Center. I think it would be highly beneficial to the town's grassroots soccer program and also our children if we had this indoor option. I know outdoor isn't on the table right now, but I would also give a plug for that as well, as Alicia did. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Coelho, followed by Victoria Martin-Young.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Coelho. Everyone came with really nice scripts on how to say stuff, but I'm here also to speak on behalf of the Thunder Soccer Program, but I'd like to just introduce myself. I'm a resident here for 9 years. I have 2 children, 8.5 and 5, and I participate in a lot of the OGRCC programs offered, and that includes soccer, baseball, the dance programs, art, Sandpiper's Camp, really everything. And I have been extremely grateful that there is something in town like this for my family and my children. So I want to start off with that. And I think that there is a huge issue with the fields. I know that we didn't want to address that specifically, but I think in renovating this building, we would be able to alleviate a little bit of that if we got at least a 14,000 square foot multi-purpose space that could be used, and that's at minimum. That would be one sort of field, indoor, to use to alleviate and maybe make up some of the games that we miss, and also, maybe some practice, and also winter training as well, as they now train on a basketball court, which is not even, I don't think, particularly safe for them. And just the reasoning behind it as well is, this spring season, my son plays in the U9 boys blue team, and we went for a stretch of 6 weeks without a game. So coming towards the end, we played 5 games in the last 2 weeks, and against teams from other towns that have been playing consistently week to week to week. So, and we did really, really well, so that's not necessarily the case, but it's just from a training perspective for the kids a problem, and they take it really seriously. And I think if you invited children to this meeting, they would also come out and speak very loudly on this issue, because they feel as though they're not getting enough practice and game time. So I also agree with there being no need for a swimming pool or ice rink. I think that the indoor multi-purpose space would help out with the sports quite a bit. I'd also like the fields addressed at the same time, since we will be digging the ground up to see if maybe there's some kind of plan that we can put in place. If that's a field house and we have to do a big push to raise money, then maybe that's something we consider and push doing as well. But I think the multi-purpose room would be a great addition, and also to keep and maintain all the spaces for rooms for all of the community that they can use. So all of us, the people that live here with young families, the seniors, anyone that has space there now still has a place to go. But my point here is the Thunder Soccer. So, but we need a new building. So please get it built. That is my final message.
Thank you. Victoria Martin Young, followed by Bill Murphy.
Hi, my name is Victoria Martin Young, and I'm a member of the RTM in District 6, which represent Old Greenwich, but this evening I am speaking as a resident of Old Greenwich on behalf of my family. I would like to start by thanking the subcommittee for spending an inordinate amount of time on this project already, and for the time that you will be spending during the design and implementation phase. My daughter Madeline, who's in 5th grade at OG, has participated in OGRCC soccer and basketball since we moved here 5 years ago. She currently plays for Greenwich United U12. This spring, a combination of bad weather, unplayable grass fields, and the delayed opening of all town fields and a lack of alternative playing surfaces, she missed a ridiculous number of practices, and we were forced to reschedule 50% of our games. When her team is given space on turf, there are often more than a half dozen teams crammed onto one field. There is clearly an unmet need on our side of town for an indoor, flexible use space that exceeds the current gym space at the Civic Center, a space that can be used for both active recreation and community events. In the winter, we drive to Whitby for indoor futsal practice, which is held in a gymnasium. I understand that the mission of Parks and Rec is to balance both the passive and active recreational needs of all Greenwich residents. With this in mind, we support the plans for a larger building that includes a second story, an elevator, community meeting rooms, an art room, rentable office space, bathrooms that are accessible to the fields from the outside, and maintaining the existing outdoor things like the playgrounds and tennis courts. Our family associates the Civic Center with soccer, and I know this hearing is not about the fields, but I have the mic. And I would like to thank the members of the BET here for the $75,000 to do a field study. There is a widespread perception among parents that Greenwich lacks an adequate inventory of playable, well-maintained outdoor grass fields. And I think that the conversation about an indoor recreational space should take place in parallel with a commitment to improving our outdoor fields. At a minimum, I'd like to see this committee initiate a timeline and a future funding request to really rehabilitate the adjacent fields. I don't want the debate about grass versus turf to slow down the building process.
30 seconds.
But this side of town lacks well-maintained fields, even fields, fields without a pitcher's mound in the middle, fields with visible painted lines, and fields with bathrooms. Building a new civic center without addressing those needs seems short-sighted. And finally, I would like to state my support for the use of longer-term financing for capital improvement projects like the Civic Center, schools, and field rehabilitation.
Thank you. Bill Murphy, followed by Alex Hood.
Good evening. My name is Bill Murphy. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the OGRCC, and I serve there as the Vice President of Athletics, and I currently also run its adult soccer program. I moved to Old Greenwich in 1992. My wife and I raised 4 kids here who participated in a wide variety of youth sports run by the OGRCC, the GBA, Cal Ripken, and others. In 1997, I joined the OGRCC board, and through coaching a million teams, running leagues, and being on that board, I've had to face innumerable examples of the difficulties that are posed to running sports programs by the insufficient inventory of outdoor fields and the complete absence of flexible indoor field house space in the town of Greenwich. From my experience, all youth sports would benefit from having a usable, flexible indoor space like a field house to use during the winter months and during bad weather in the spring, summer, and fall. I'm here tonight to talk about one angle of this, which is adult sports, and particularly adult soccer, and how that might fit into a field house space. The OGRCC's adult soccer program now has 90 registered players, men and women, ages 18 to 60, who play year-round, 3 days a week, 2 seasons, one for spring and summer and one for fall and winter. That's a lot of soccer being played, and we're not alone. Greenwich Arsenal Football Club and Greenwich Pumas, between the two clubs, run approximately 7 full adult travel teams every season that compete within the state of Connecticut. Outdoor field space is always scarce and always in demand for these adult programs, and indoor field space currently is non-existent. If we had indoor field space as part of the new Civic Center, it would be used extensively by these groups, and they would pay substantial revenues by way of rental fees in order to use that space. Let me give you a couple of examples.
30 seconds.
Our group has rented space at the Armonk Indoor Center, and their rates currently are $325 an hour in the spring and fall, $595 an hour in the winter. We've also rented outdoor lighted artificial turf space from White Plains at Saxon Woods at the rate of $265 an hour. So the bottom line is this facility would get extensive use and it would generate revenue. Look, replacing the Eastern Greenwich Civic Center building is a once in 50-year proposition. Let's have the courage and foresight to seize this opportunity to finally start to meet this town's longstanding unmet need for adequate indoor and outdoor field facilities. Thank you.
Okay, we have Alex Hood, followed by Angie Hartofilis. Here we go. Try it now.
How's that? There you go. Again, it's very hard to follow Bill. He had the mic on. My name's Alex Hood. I'm here as a 20-plus year resident of Greenwich. I've lived in Byram, backcountry, Riverside, and now Casas. My wife and I are raising two young, very active boys. So arts and crafts and outdoor sports and indoor sports are very important to them. I have, for the last 5 years, run the OGRCC's baseball program, which is largely an outdoor program in the spring and summer. We have over 700 kids who play spring baseball, and that's grown from about 550 when I started. It's a growing sport. We play as well in the fall. We play in the winter. And so I speak both. We've had adequate fields. Partly because we have renovated and maintained a terrific facility, private facility up in Banksville. So we know a little bit about running fields and running programs on them and how to maintain them, et cetera. Each year we purchase 1,500 hours of coaching, which includes indoor facilities, much of which we have to go out of town to access, whether it's Portchester or New Canaan or Stanford. Many of those programs could be in a facility that was close to where we play. More than half of our players come from Riverside, Casas, and Old Greenwich, and many come from Glenville and Byram and Casas. So we could very much use an indoor facility, much as Bill has pointed out. We are renting fields tomorrow in anticipation of rain at Bobby V's for over $350 an hour. The point is that there is a huge unmet demand for facilities that are nearby. So the moms and dads who are driving 4 children all over can get to easily and manage. And so a multi-use facility would be a wonderful improvement on the existing building. The location clearly is the best in town. And so I'll part with one last baseball reference. There's a wonderful movie called Field of Dreams, and they say in that if you build it, they will come. And that's true here. So build it big and multi-use. Thank you.
Angie Hart, followed by Andrew Yo.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much for holding this public hearing. My name's Angie Hart. It's okay, most people pronounce it incorrectly. I've lived in Greenwich for 12 years, the past 8 in Old Greenwich with my husband and my 3 sons. They're aged 11, 9, and 7. I'm here tonight as a parent, as a volunteer, and as an OGRCC board member. My sons have participated in the OGRCC baseball, soccer, and Sandpiper summer camp program, as well as the indoor youth fitness program. Although this is not an OGRCC program, they also attend the Gem and Mineral Show pretty much yearly. That's because it rocks. Sorry, cheesy joke. I've been volunteering with the OGRCC for the past 7 years, in which time I've coached 21 baseball teams, and I've directed rec baseball for 3 years. I've had the opportunity and privilege to serve on the OGRCC board for just over a year now. And in that time, I've learned what a valuable, involved, and active group the OGRCC is in our community. I just want to highlight one of my son's experiences this past year, and that's when he was participating in the indoor fitness program. This fitness and conditioning class was not actually able to be held in the gym at the OGRCC because it was already being used. And so it was held in the bowling alley, which they weren't able to throw balls, and they risked running around the pillars, you know, that kind of like litter that room. So it wasn't really a very productive space to hold a fitness class. I understand that we're doing our best with what we have, but now we are in a position to do something new and better, and I think that we should. It's super clear to me that we have a very active community with diverse interests. I'm sure that we will fill an additional gym space or a field house. So I'm here to ask that you really consider several things. I hope that we have a space that's suitable to conduct dance classes, to hold meetings, maybe just any meeting that needs to occur in town, but as a coach, we hold many, many meetings a year with parents or just to have discussions. Also, art classes with appropriate facilities such as sinks in the rooms, and then of course, like rooms that would be conducive to holding fitness classes.
30 seconds.
Thank you. I also could ask that you consider having a second floor. It seems like this space will definitely be used, and you're already, whatever you're doing, it's like doubling the size of the building if you already have that square footage as the footprint. Anyways, I think that this space will be used and further, enrich our community. Thank you very much for your time and for your effort.
Thank you. Andrew Yo, followed by Laura Gentile.
Hello, hi, thank you. My name is Andrew Yu. I've been a Greenwich resident for 25 years, the last 20 years in Old Greenwich. I'm also on the board of the OGRCC for the last 5 years. My wife Amy and I have 3 kids, ages 20, 17, and 14. Here as an advocate for a larger multi-use facility. I am also in charge of our girls basketball program. I want to give you a little history of that. About 12 years ago, when my oldest daughter wanted to play basketball, we said, that's great, let's look around, and there was no program available in the town of Greenwich. So we went to Stanford, and we did that for 2 years. And after that, my wife, my brother-in-law, another friend looking at each other at West Hill High School and saying, this is crazy. Why don't we have a league like this in Greenwich? So we formed this league 8 years ago, well, the 3 of them, and we were discouraged. We were told there was no demand for it. We had 135 kids the first year across 3 age divisions. That has grown to 240 since we started in grades 2nd through 8. We're an introductory instructional league and open to girls of all abilities. Our goal is really empowering girls to experience the game. Last year, high school teams at Greenwich High School, the freshman team had 11 girls that played in our league, JV had 10, and 6 on the varsity. At Eastern Middle School, 80 girls tried out the last 2 years for basketball. If we look at our uses of space, we probably do 30 to 40 hours a week of rentals. We use mostly the public schools in Greenwich because, as we've said many times and other people have reiterated, there is no available space in Greenwich. We are also relegated to evening times and late afternoon times on the weekends. So sometimes we have 6, 7-year-old girls finishing at 7:30, 8 p.m. on a school night or 8:30 p.m. on a Sunday. I don't think that anyone could see that is appropriate.
30 seconds.
We also rent space outside of the public schools in Greenwich Academy. Our program has a 95% retention rate. One point I do want to make, we don't really market this program because there is no space to grow. We need more space. This past year, I had to turn away 2nd and 3rd grade girls that wanted to play. All right, so we should be ashamed of ourselves. That is absurd because there wasn't enough space for them to play.
That's time.
Okay, if we flash back 10 years ago, this program did not exist. We need to plan for facilities and needs in the future. Again, we're building something now that's going to serve the community for 50 years. Let's do this. Thank you.
Laura Gentile, followed by Jill Vollmer.
Hello, I'm pleased to be here. I'm Laura Gentilly. You're 0 for 2 with Italians. But I'm Laura Gentilly.
Taking away my card. Taking away my sausage.
I'm a senior vice president of ESPN. I run our marketing department there. And I helped create ESPNW, which is our division that focuses on women and girls. And I'm a former field hockey player at Duke University. I live in Old Greenwich, and I have 3 active boys, ages 11, 4, and 2. My oldest son, Will, plays hockey for the Connecticut Junior Rangers out of Chelsea Piers. He uses their batting cages multiple times a week. And through the OGRCC, he plays both rec, travel, and district baseball, and he started when he was 5, and he's loved every minute of it. And I'm eager for my younger 2 boys to start playing very soon, ideally in a brand new multi-purpose facility in Old Greenwich. Today I want to speak with you about the importance of youth sports for girls. I was a 3-sport athlete all through high school, and proof that playing sports can have a tremendous impact on a girl's life. While there are obvious immediate health benefits, research shows that lifelong impact of youth sports on girls, higher test scores, increased college attendance, lower obesity rates, and reduced risky behavior, including substance abuse. Girls benefit in many additional ways: higher self-esteem and confidence levels, improved teamwork and communication, and leadership. There is a clear and direct correlation between playing sports and increased confidence, body image, academic performance, and healthy personal relationships. Girls who play sports also spend significantly less time on social media, and they also report they have stronger friendships. At ESPNW, we conducted a survey with EY that made the connection between women's sports and leadership very clear. Out of 400 respondents, executive respondents, 74% said a background in sports can help accelerate a woman's career. And 75% stated that competitiveness is an asset to their leadership style in the workplace. In fact, 96% of female C-suite executives participate in sports as teenagers. There is much more we can do to support girls who are interested in sports, because unfortunately, girls participate in sports at a significantly lower rate than boys, and they tend to drop out of sports at twice the rate by age 14. There are many factors that contribute to this drop-off in girls competing, including lack of access to programs and facilities, which we can solve for here in Greenwich,
30 seconds.
lack of parental encouragement or involvement, and lack of positive role models. The OGRCC provides many opportunities for girls to participate, but it's limited in what it can do due to space constraints, as has been well discussed tonight. For example, just last year when the girls' basketball program added 2 teams, the OGRCC had to rent space from Greenwich Academy. This multi-purpose field house would greatly help address our needs and help grow programs that enable girls to compete, test themselves, and develop as leaders.
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jill Vollmer, followed by Sara Sybil.
Hello, my name is Gil Vollmer. My husband Chris and I have 2 teenage children. We live right down the street from the Eastern Greenwich Civic Center on Tomac Avenue in Old Greenwich, and we've lived there for almost 19 years. Our family has been fully engaged in OGRCC activities for many years. From Kitty Kick to Greenwich United Premier, our entire family has been involved in both rec and travel soccer since 2007. My husband coached, both kids played, I managed teams multiple years. We also participated in OGRCC youth tennis, Thunder baseball, and men's adult soccer. We've also spent countless hours on the playground there and on the tennis courts. Additionally, we've benefited from non-sports activities that have been available at the Civic Center. Our kids attended Bridges Preschool back when it was there. We attended Cub Scout meetings, school enrichment days, various organizational meetings and birthday parties, and we've even been to the Gem and Mineral Show too. So we appreciate that space needs to strive to accommodate all kinds of activities. And in light of that background, I just want to make 2 important points. It's echoing a lot of what we've heard tonight. First of all, our family fully supports that the new Eastern Greenwich Civic Center be flexible and multi-use, one that can accommodate sports and non-sports activities. The town should absolutely consider a field house or second gym space. There have been so many times my kids have tried to go to open gym to play open court basketball. It's never available. And it would also be so nice if the new space could have lounge areas, Wi-Fi, maybe even table tennis, just a great spot for all ages to really congregate. This type of building could really build community within our town to be a place where everyone from senior citizens to young children can gather. I agree with the points made about we don't need an ice rink there, a pool, the costs are really prohibitive in maintaining those things. I also echo some of the reports of the findings saying we don't necessarily need another fitness center. There are many within, like a 3-mile radius of that space. Absolutely build the second floor. It would be a shame not to take advantage of the square footage. And the indoor track above a basketball court space would be fantastic, especially when the weather is bad. Second point I want to make is this project must address the condition of the outdoor fields. While the building is under construction and closed, it will be the perfect time to address the field situation.
30 seconds.
No one wants to dig up the fields once the building is completed. And we've all heard about the canceled games and the canceled practices, countless days on end, and it's a really big disadvantage to our programs. And I really implore the committee to bring this into scope. I don't know what the right solution is, given the history of the land and what may lie underneath. If that's a concern, I strongly urge the town to consider turf, even if it's just for part of the land. Look at what a wonderful addition the Coscob Park has been. It's absolutely fully utilized.
That's time.
It was done in a wonderful way with the walking path and other amenities.
Sara Sybil, followed by Pilar Mejia.
Hi, my name is Sara Sybil. I live here in Old Greenwich with my husband and our 4 children. Their ages range from 2 years old to 10. We've lived in the community for almost 8 years and have been an active OGRCC member since then. My kids have participated in numerous activities the OGC offers, including soccer, baseball, dance, chess, flag football, field hockey, art classes, sandpipers, and we're train show people. Both my husband and I have coached rec soccer for many years. We did not realize when we moved here how important both the Civic Center and the OGRCC would become to our family. We are part of a really exciting time for the Civic Center. Working together, we can create a Civic Center that is truly amazing, not only for our children, but for all residents of this town. Multi-use rooms would be hugely beneficial, especially one with a focus on dancing and fitness equipment, one for traditional indoor sports, and another room for meetings and conferences, and of course, a large field house. Currently, our dance program does not have a dance floor, a bar, or real mirrors. The room has poor ventilation. I think most of the windows are locked, and has a large pole that goes to the center of the room. This is obviously not ideal and is actually dangerous for both children and adults. A proper space with flooring, mirrors, bars, music system, and storage room would enhance the program and its safety. This multi-purpose room could also be used as a dual fitness space for children and adults. Currently, we're unable to utilize the actual gym for the program, so we're very limited in what type of activities can be done effectively and safely. An additional multi-use room for indoor sports and winter sports would be beneficial. Indoor soccer is at capacity with 200 children playing. This space could also be used for various other sports, meetings, or functions. Additional multi-use room with a focus for meetings, conference, lounge area, people who work from home, people who want to get together to play cards, tables, lounge chairs, benches, whatever. It could be a space that, the girls' leadership program takes place, CPR courses, etc. The possibilities are endless. Having a field house for the Civic Center, from all traditional sports being held in the space to dance recitals, camps, open gym time, conventions, and special events such as dinners and banquets that could be held in the space. It also has the ability to produce revenue by renting it out. As a mother of 4,
30 seconds.
I would prefer to drive my children to the Civic Center every single day of the year than getting on 95 to drive to Chelsea Piers or Armonk or Whitby or wherever. This would benefit every single person in this community. Lastly, better fields are needed. Could the fields be addressed at the same time? This will continue to be an issue for everyone, and it's just sad for our children and our future of our program. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Pilar Mejia, followed by Chris Schmidt.
Good evening, and thank you for listening. My name is Pilar Mejia. I'm originally from Argentina, but I've been living in this country for 12 years now. That being said, excuse me for my English. I am a mother of 2 boys, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, who are active participants in various activities in the OGRCC. We live in Riverside, and we are members, and most of all, big fans of the OGRCC community. I am a dancer, and I've been teaching for adults at the OGRCC for more than 2 years now. We have people from all over the world attending the class. We even had our first performance done at the space last week. I'm here tonight because I strongly think that in this project, a studio with the appropriate equipment has to be included. When I say appropriate, I mean proper wooden floors, mirrors, bars, air conditioning, and of course, a good sound equipment. And last but not least, a decent restroom. I believe that we are fortunate to have the time to express ourselves through dancing. So why don't we give the community the chance of having a beautiful, sunny, breezy studio instead of the one we have today? Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Schmidt, followed by Margot Maybe.
Thank you. My name is Chris Schmidt. I've been a Casas resident for now 6 years. I have 2 kids. I have an 11-year-old boy as well as an 8-year-old daughter. I've spent the last 6 years volunteering for the OGRCC in many aspects, mostly through athletics. My son and I do quite a bit of baseball. We do rec baseball. We do Cal Ripken baseball. We've done the Thunder program. We've been happy enough to do the travel soccer program. So as you can tell, I've volunteered in a lot of different aspects, mostly around athletics. But actually what's most important to me to date is actually my daughter, the time that I've spent with my daughter through the OGRCC and the programs that it's put forth for her. Specifically, she's had the opportunity to do t-ball, she's had the opportunity to do soccer. Truth be told, she's not quite the athlete, and that's not really where her interest lies. So we've had to find other ways for each other to communicate with each other, to express with each other. And what we've found is that she's very good at art. She finds ways to create, she finds ways to express herself, she finds ways to be happy and joyful. For a young girl developing, we talked about youth programs through athletics, and I think that's almost more as important or just as important for other programs as well. It's for girls to find their voice, to express themselves, to be confident in themselves, to build their confidence. So what I want to really express is just the OGRCC art program, how it's been such a big part of her life. how it's been a big part of our family's life as a result of that. So going into this meeting, I asked her what she enjoyed about the art program and how much she enjoyed it and what she would say about it, and she told me, "I love it. It makes me so happy. It brings me to another world." And for someone who's 8 years old to be able to express that to me was very important to me. And I do really hope that this goes into the, into what is being planned for the space. So obviously, I'm in favor of doing whatever it takes for the fields. Obviously, I like the multi-sport use for the facilities, but I want the art program to be able to be built, to be able to have a sufficient space. I want to have a little bit more than just paintbrushes that are 25 years old and a sink in the back corner that they can use. So I do hope that you start to think for a multi-purpose space, to have enriching activities, to build the art program, to have a sufficient space for it, even go beyond. So maybe put a kiln in for the art program to be able to build onto what the programs that it could build on. So anyway, I just want to thank you for your time, reiterate how much the art program has been important to us, and hope that we can continue to build on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Margot Maybe, followed by Brian Kelly.
Hi, I'm Margot Maybe. As a Riverside resident, I first got to the Civic Center in the late 1980s when my older daughter went to Play Pocket several mornings a week. And then we were at the Civic Center for travel soccer. In addition to the many sports programs, classes on everything from cake decorating to bridge, antique shows, the Junior League's Festival of Trees, and roller skating were held there. It was really a lively place. Nowadays, I live in Old Greenwich, and I go to the Civic Center taking grandchildren to the playground. If we want a successful, financially sound Civic Center, the plan needs to include a cafe, not a cooler with some bottled drinks and a rack of chips and packaged cookies, but something along the lines of Eau de Lys, which is open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and offers delicious, real food that appeals to both adults and children at reasonable prices. And if you've been to the Eau de Lys in Riverside, you know it's a busy place. Such an operation would provide a steady rent stream, contributing to the Civic Center's financial health. It would also provide a steady people stream. In addition to those at the Civic Center for sports and other programs, a cafe would draw people from the neighborhood and employees at the many nearby office buildings, attracted by great food, easy parking, and we hope a pleasant place to meet and linger over a cup of coffee or lunch. A terrific cafe will help make the Civic Center what we want it to be, a place that brings people together, people of all ages and from all parts of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Kelly? No Brian Kelly? Linnea Steinberg, followed by Joe Paella.
Good evening. My name is Linnea Steinberg. I'm co-president of the Riverside Association. Our board supports the SFA Consultant Survey Summary as a reference for guiding options for the future of the Civic Center. We would like to make two requests. One, maintain a priority on the utilization of the building as a civic or community center. And two, continue to keep the residents informed about the progress of this project and provide opportunities for them to give input. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Paella, followed by Kelly Fonsberg.
Hi, I'm Joe Paella. I never thought I'd be speaking in my old high school auditorium. That's how far I go back. I don't really use the Civic Center, but I just want to make a point, being a taxpayer of the town of Greenwich, that before anything, I mean, the wish list is great. Maybe if we had $20 billion, we could give everybody what they wanted. But I really think that soil should be tested for PCBs or any contaminants, and before anything else is done. Because if that has to be cleaned up, the $15 million goes right out the window. So there's no point even, you can have the wish list as far as you want, but if you got to clean the PCBs up or whatever, and who knows what Electrolux dumped there, that's all. But I would like to see a dog park.
Me too.
At least on that side of town. And the other thing you should take into consideration is, under construction, how are you going to issue passes to get into Greenwich Point? That's all.
All right, thank you. Kelly Fonsberg, followed by Nancy Burke.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Forsberg, and I'm the president of the Garden Club of Old Greenwich. We are a club of over 80 members, and we have been using the Eastern Civic Center for over 30 years. We use the Civic Center for our meetings, our annual Mother's Day plant sale in the spring, and for workshops. Our meetings and events bring hundreds of people to the facility. Based on our longtime use, the club would like to see the following included in the plan for the new Civic Center. Wide area entrance with display space to post upcoming events. Places on the outside of the building to display event banners. Large display community meeting space with loading dock that does not block the parking lot. The walls designed to accommodate hangings of art and posters. A locked closet or cloakroom with shelves and hooks for users to keep coats and purses. Good natural lighting and ventilation. Resilient flooring. Audio-visual equipment and screen for programs. Secure local area networks to accommodate the multi-groups at the same time. Kitchen for functions and large display space. Workroom with running water, heavy-duty sinks, and work surfaces at counter and table height for workshops and crafts. Real water pressure. Space for brought-in food with refrigeration for staff and smaller meeting rooms. Small meeting rooms for 8 to 10 people. Medium meeting rooms for 10 to 30 with audio-visual equipment. A green roof, which could be planted with pollinator plants to ensure the health of our pollinators, or the possibility of teaching and produce growing for neighbor to neighbor or a food pantry, and or with low maintenance plants to capture runoff and cool the building in summer and insulate in the winter. ADA compliant and energy efficient. Look into geothermal heating and cooling. But we hope you'll consider these requests. We know we have a long list, but we think this is such a wonderful, we are a community partner, and we think the Eastern Civic Center is essential to our Greenwich community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nancy Burke, followed by Betsy Underhill.
Hi, I'm Nancy Burke, and I'm a Greenwich resident for 40 years. After hearing all these speeches tonight, I wish that I'd raised my family in Old Greenwich. There's a lot to do over there. But as it is, they're all grown and out of the nest, and I'm on the Budget Overview Committee for the RTM. I hear a lot of boos. And I just want, with all these wonderfully creative and innovative ideas, I just hope that your committee and the architects and all will be mindful of our budget in this town. We've apparently approved about $50 million in capital projects this year on May 13th, and we have $100 million worth or so of unfinished projects in the town. And I think you're talking about 35,000 square feet. I hope you will budget the space very beautifully. I hear a lot of advocates for turning this building into a sports complex, but I think it needs to also offer opportunities for those young and old who are interested in the arts and music. And I'm not sure of the technicalities about the fields, but I've been hearing forever, for 40 years since I've been here, that we need more playing fields. And the environmental worries about that space must be looked at. Also, I don't know about the floodplain in that area. Somebody mentioned using it for an emergency shelter. And I'm just also wondering whether all of Greenwich can use this space. I've certainly been there for antique shows, for other things, for buying beach passes. but I haven't really utilized it because there are many other places in central Greenwich, like senior centers and Wise, that we can use. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Betsy Underhill, followed by Ted Larrabee.
I have no notes. My name is Betsy Underhill. It's going to be very simple, I think. I've lived in this town all my life. I'm actually the Greenwich High girls varsity tennis coach. I've been there for 23 years. I've been involved in sports in this town all my life. I also ran a league, Fairfield County Paddle Tennis League, for 15 years. So sports have been my thing. 9 years ago, I got involved in a silly sport called pickleball. Some of you have may heard of it. Some of you haven't. You should look into it. It is the fastest growing sport in the country right now. And I can attest to that. It was brought to me verbally by a friend, and I blew her off for probably 4 months because I thought the name sounded so stupid and I didn't need another sport in my life at that stage. But she bugged me so badly. She said, "You have to play it. You need to bring it to town. My husband's a tennis pro in town. You need to bring it here." So to get her off my back, I decided to try the sport. I had to go to Ridgefield, Connecticut, up to a rec center up there, a beautiful rec center, actually. And I got so addicted, literally, in such a short time that I found myself going up to Ridgefield twice a week to play this sport. After about 6 months of schlepping up to Ridgefield, it's not around the corner, I decided I need to become an ambassador to pickleball, to this town. Another sport yet to get involved in, and that was back in 2010. I realized that I had to buy a net and 4 paddles, and that's how I started. I didn't even have 4 players that could play the sport. It was so new at the time, to the East Coast anyway. That was back in 2010. The first person I went to was Frank Gabriel from our Western Civic Center, to convince him to see if I could bring pickleball into the gym. The gym at the Western Civic Center is quite much smaller. If any of you know the Civic Center on the western side of town, it's quite a bit smaller than on the eastern side of town, but that's where we started pickleball in this town, and we ran it there for several years. We tried to get into Eastern, but we were the door was shut for a little while until the growth became so big that I don't know who it was. I'm not going to say any names, but finally said, yeah, maybe we could bring it over here to Eastern.
30 seconds.
So I did bring it to Eastern. My whole thing to you all about the building is I just hope you build as big a gym, if not bigger. I am totally concerned with the gym. We do play indoors. Luckily, because with tennis, we have gotten rained out like you with your kids. The spring was horrendous, but at least with pickleball, we could go in the gym and play. So I do think we just have 2 civic centers in this town, and I think one of them should have a really good-sized gym to handle all these sports. That's it.
Thank you. Ted Larrabee, followed by Lauren Turner.
Yes, my name is Tad Larrabee. I live literally 1 house away from the Civic Center, so I'm very familiar. I've been there 44 years. I've seen a lot of, if you will, issues of what's going on at the Eastern Civic Center. Many times people have mentioned the condition of the fields. It goes further than that. The number of times that I've seen the parking lot flooded 50 to 75%, you can build the best facility in the town, and if you can't park there or you have to have a boat to get there, it's not going to be used very much. I have been told, and I've mentioned this, talked about this with town engineers several times. I'm not an engineer, so I can't say with any professionalism about it, but I've been told a number of times that the drainage in the south side of the property there that goes underneath the railroad bridge, railroad tracks, is inadequate and was improperly designed and is too small. If you do improve the drainage, it's going to solve part of the parking problem, and it'll probably solve a lot of the field condition problems because it's a drainage problem from an inadequate, unengineered system. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren Turner, followed by Richard Benincase. Is Lauren here? Okay, so then Richard Benacasa, followed by Salim Beg. Richard Benacasa, are you here? Is that you? Okay. Well, Salim, come on up. So Salim is going to be followed by Shireen. I'm just going to say Shireen K, so I don't mess up any more names.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a mere youngster. I've only been living in Old Grange for 3.5 years compared to some of the people here. I have 2 children who are actively involved in OGRCC programs. I coach 3 teams on the rugby side there. Now, most of the material I wanted to say to you has already been mentioned, so I don't want to repeat stuff that's already been said. Just a couple of points. Whatever you decide to do, you need to be ambitious. Whatever you're building here isn't just for the next 10, 20 years. You're replacing a building that I believe you said was 70 or 80 years old. So it's not going to be rebuilt in our generation. So whatever you have, don't just think about what everyone in the audience has mentioned. You're going to need to have more than that to think about the future. Now, I understand the comments that have been made about funding, that you have a $15 million budget. But look to the private side as well. All right. Many of the things that have been mentioned here, you're focusing on the building, and I appreciate that is why we are here. But that goes hand in hand, in my opinion, with the fields as well. You can't fix one issue without addressing the other one. Now, I work in finance. My exposure to budgets is, if you give $15 million this year, you're not going to give us $15 million next year. We'll go down to the bottom of the list and have to wait our turn. It's already been mentioned that there's $100 million of outstanding projects. So look at these 2 things together. If it needs more than $15 million, go to the private sector, find out what's available, get sponsorship. Now, as I mentioned, I coach, the men's rugby team. We've never had a practice session in Old Greenwich, right? We practice twice a week. We have to go to Purchase, Armonk, South Norwalk, or Stanwich School. Each session costs us $500. Now, if you think that's $1,000 a week, the money is there, all right? You need to figure out a way of how to leverage that and put that into your budget. We can't be the only team. I think somebody mentioned something about baseball, all right? So there is the investments floating around that you can leverage to fix all the problems. You just need to address it and figure out a way of doing it. Thank you very much.
Shireen K, followed by Julia Fitzgerald. Shireen? Okay. Julia Fitzgerald? Julia will be followed by Susan Foster.
Good evening. My name is Julie Fitzgerald. I grew up in Old Greenwich and used the Civic Center as a child, went to Camp Carefree and other events there growing up. I returned as an adult only about 4 years ago. I'm currently living in Old Greenwich Gables. And that, as you know, is a very close neighbor to the Old Greenwich, the Civic Center. And I have yet to use the Civic Center. In the past 4 years, there really hasn't been programming that's necessarily interested me, so I'm hopeful that with the new facility, we'll have programming that's a little bit more inventive. I feel that a lot of the activities that are being held there now are the same ones that have been there for 40 years. So that's one point. The bigger point that I wanted to make is that we don't have any facility in the Old Greenwich area for dogs. And so my hope is that we might consider a dog run or a dog park as part of the makeup of this new space. I recognize that there may be some concerns over drainage and so forth, so that could be a concern ultimately as well. But if we're going to fix the fields or at least address that, perhaps we can do that in the same time for the potential dog run. If you have been to Todd's Point during the winter months, you see the number of residents and their dogs in that space. It's overrun. There are many people, in my opinion, who would use a facility like this, but there isn't any such facility. There's no place for the residents to come with their dogs to a facility to let them run off leash, to socialize, and frankly, for their owners to socialize. I have a weekend home where there is such a facility. Every weekend, you see the same 20 to 30 people in this facility. They come with their dogs, but it's more about the socialization of the people than it is necessarily the dogs. And so I feel that, and they're of all ages. They're from 18-year-olds to 70-year-olds, and frankly, it's more in the higher end of that population. It's usually the 50 to 70-year-olds who are there every single day with their dogs because they don't have any other alternative, frankly. They're not really as physically fit as a younger person to bring their dogs, for normal walks. So I feel
20 seconds.
that would be a very good use and consideration for the space. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Susan Foster is going to be followed by Michelle Couture.
Gary, I'm speaking twice in two different
Only
capacities. I'm here speaking first for the Riverside Garden Club, which is a totally separate and distinct of me as an individual.
There's only one sign up per person, and time's starting now.
Okay. Okay, so my name is Susan Foster, and I've lived in Riverside for 30 years. I'm going to read from this executive summary for the sake of the community here. This was a survey that was fairly done. A facility that offers event rooms is the greatest perceived need, with 49% of respondents stating this amenity as a need in Greenwich, Connecticut. Indoor fitness, wellness spaces, and classes are the next greatest perceived need, with 45% and 44% of individuals stating there is a need for a facility that offers these amenities. Adaptive sports fitness areas was the fourth largest perceived need in the area, with 35% of individuals identifying this as a need. Playgrounds was the fifth highest perceived need, with 33% of individuals selecting this as a need. To me, this speaks for itself, and I appreciate the enthusiasm in this room for a field house, for artificial turf, for the spectrum of sports. I am a sports person myself, but that's not what the community asked for. There is only 31,000 square feet, and if all of the sports that were requested here tonight, there would be no civic center. We would have an athletic center. I want to make a couple points in connection with that. For some reason, although Chelsea Piers is just a few miles away from us, and we don't see a swimming pool or an ice rink necessary here because those facilities are right next door, so is indoor turf right next door at Chelsea Piers. Scott, you said at the beginning you wanted to hear from the senior citizens, and I'm now officially one of those people. And there hasn't been much from that end. There's a lot of lessons to learn from Western Civic Center. They can't have a Zumba class and a yoga class at the same time. I ask that you give the architect direction to make sure that there is a room that's a true quiet room that deals with wellness. We don't know what's going to happen in the development of wellness in this area. One of the speakers spoke about pickleball and how that was an unexpected development here for Greenwich.
30 seconds.
Yep, so I ask that you be very sensitive to the fact that you do not make the mistakes that were made from Western, or not even see them as mistakes, build upon the situation and do a better job. I want to support, I was here also on behalf of Amy Butler of the Riverside Garden Club, who wanted me to say that we support all of the comments that our sister club, the Greenwich.
That's time. Thank you, Susan. Thank you. For those of you who have signed up and wonder where we are, we have about a dozen speakers left. So if you sign up and you're wondering why haven't I been called yet, it's coming up soon. So Michelle Couture will be followed by Katie Jackson.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Couture. I'm the Director of Operations at the Greenwich Historical Society. And I am coming to this hearing from a bit of a different perspective as a community user. For a number of years, we have held our Antiquarious Antique Show at the Civic Center. And I would like to make the point that the Greenwich Historical Society receives no financial support from the town of Greenwich. We raise our essential operating support from the proceeds of the preview party on the opening night of the antique show and the remaining days over the weekend. This is held every December at the Greenwich Civic Center for at least 25, maybe 30 years. So we are currently working in partnership with Frank Gaglio of Barnstar Productions, who rents the center for the show. The facility is the only facility in Greenwich where such a show hosting 50 dealers is possible in terms of square footage. And so we are here to voice our support for other community users. We would like to see some of the requirements that were mentioned and some of the requests that were mentioned by the sports teams would also benefit community users. One large open space with a minimum of 20,000 square feet that is flexible, upgraded electrical, a full kitchen facility, storage areas for vendor equipment, supplies, and inventory, overhead lighting in open space that is flexible, public address system, a loading dock area, multiple access doors directly into the open space where vendor vehicles can be parked and unloaded, a state-of-the-art alarm and fire system, lockable offices or breakout rooms for event managers while on site, internet access, and most importantly, ample accessibility and general parking for event attendees and vendors.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay, Katie Jackson will be followed by Demetris. I think it's Papadopoulos, but I could be wrong.
He left. Hi, my name is Katie Jackson. I am very new compared to most of you here. I have only been here for 2 years, about 2.5, and we use the Civic Center for everything because I have a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and we really can't go very far. I would say when I first moved here and I saw the state of the Civic Center, I was kind of really shocked how poor it really is. It's Greenwich. I mean, I kind of just assumed it was going to have this, nice place to take my children. I actually kind of get nervous when I'm in there because it's so bad. I feel like something's going to kind of fall from the ceiling at us. I would say that we love the playground, and I think that it's really important for there to be a place for all of the siblings that are stuck going to all of these games to kind of hang out at while they're being tugged along. I also think that you might be missing the new moms to Greenwich. I think that there's a huge amount of new moms who have their first child and have no idea what to do with themselves, and to be able to utilize a space where you can have all these moms with babies have a nice clean room to be able to play in would be amazing, as well as the seniors. I mean, there isn't really anywhere that I know of, and I know that there are senior centers, but a place for them to just go play bridge or hang out with one another or have the arts, anything. I think that we need a field house. I think to be able to be competitive, I mean, I have friends who are moving from Manhattan like I was, trying to figure out where they're going to go, and you need a space that's built for sports as well. It's so important, and Right now, just for example, my son, I told him, we're not doing spring soccer anymore. I'm not wasting my money on something that we can't play. My children actually went by the Civic Center the other day and thought they built a pond. There were ducks, so many ducks, that they said, wow, there's a pond here now. Let's go feed the ducks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just crazy. So I do believe that you need to address the fields. I know it's like the worst thing that you could possibly hear right now, but it really is important, and it's gonna all be ripped up anyway. Even if you could do something, or with the field house have something on top, something to be able to play these sports. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Demetrius? Okay. Charlene Barnes, followed by Trish Clark. Charlene?
Hey.
Hey.
Charlene Barnes. I've lived here for 25 years now, and I am a member of the Garden Club of Old Greenwich, which our wonderful president managed to say got a lot of good things for. But there's something I really want to drive home here is I'm scared, okay? I'm scared because we have our one fundraiser a year. Now, our group is very involved in the community. Today, we're all very tired because we were planting plants and perennials in town all day long. We're trying to do it with a very environmental sense and what is appropriate for here. We have a butterfly garden at the Point. We are doing our very best to mitigate that wall. And also we support other community groups, and we have a scholarship too. We do this with one fundraiser, okay? And we're not having cocktails at some yacht club, okay? We are digging things from our own garden, selling them the Saturday before Mother's Day every year, and it funds everything that we do, okay? And it's very important to us that that keeps going. I'm frankly a little obsessed with the plant sale. I love it because it's a wonderful opportunity to talk to community members, to share what we know about plants and the environment with them, okay? And also, it's just a great way to be involved in everything that we're doing. And it's our one fundraiser, okay? My concern is, yes, we would all really like nicer bathrooms, okay? We know that there are a lot of needs at the Civic Center. And also, I don't have terribly sporty kids, but I shudder to think how not sporty they'd be if the Civic Center wasn't really close to us. But having said that, it's definitely a community center, and there's a lot of events there. I'm scared that you're going to be building this thing for 2 years, and we're not going to have our plant sale for 2 years, which means our community budget disappears. Okay? I'm scared that you're going to have a place that is going to be so nice you're not going to want dirt in it. Okay? And I'm scared that we're just going to be prioritized out of existence. So please remember that there are a lot of groups that use this. It's very important. It's a community center, not a compete with private enterprise center. And the groups really, really need these spots. Thank you.
Thank you. Trish Clark. Is Trish Clark here? I think I saw them. Kathy Harrington, I think is gone. Dana Gaccione, I think is gone. Jason Mara. Jason Mara is not with us anymore at this meeting. Gina Frankel. Gina Frankel will be followed by Meg Nolan.
Hello, I'm Gina Frankel. I've lived in Riverside about 10 years. I have 2 kids. One, super sporty, would love better basketball courts. Another, sings, dances, performs. He would like a really nice stage. Currently, there is a stage. I know right now it's used for storage. And I get it because the building is overused. But if we're going to plan a civic center, we need to remember all aspects of the community. Excuse me. I did hear people talk about the arts, and I'm very inspired by that, but I did not hear anybody talk about performing arts. And there is a need for community theater. Like I said, the stage is already there. I'm sure the equipment sucks, but the stage is there. If you're going to do a community center, it needs to encompass the entire community, and that includes thespians. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dog park. Dog park. Definitely dog park.
Meg Nolan will be followed by Rosemary Hyson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Meg Nolan. I'm the president of the Old Greenwich Association. I'm also a member of the Board of Parks and Rec. And until recently, I was part of your guys' subcommittee. I deferred the position to Liz so that the Riverside Association could also bear witness to the planning and the procedure and take the responsibility of representing the neighborhood associations. And I'm grateful for you taking that role on so that these voices that you guys are listening to tonight do get heard and are represented in the planning and procedure and how the whole building does get erected. I'm also up here to clearly make note of the fact that this meeting happened and you guys did bear witness to the voice of a probably until now underrepresented element of what is desired in the Civic Center. And I think it's important that you guys did this, and I appreciate it, and I implore you to take the notes that you've created and use them, because this is a majority within Old Greenwich, and this is a voice that is asking for a expanded building that goes beyond the footprint, for indoor facilities that are multi-purpose, that will encompass classrooms, that will encompass sports facilities, and that will improve what is currently there. And then I have one final observation. As some might know, I've spent the last 2 years meeting with various people about this project. I also now, obviously, being on part of the Board of Parks and Rec, also have meetings every month where we sometimes discuss this as well. And I have spent these last 6 months on the Board of Parks and Rec listening to the needs, particularly of our aging population. We've talked about things about how potentially we're going to create a towpath in Binney Park and more benches. And I've also asked about things like, well, what about then if we're going to do these improvements, what about bathrooms and facilities and other things? And often that has been met with budget constraints. And so I just want to say that it is time to listen to those that represent the youth population and the needs of our children and the needs of those young families that do support the Civic Center and are there and are creating sports teams and are meeting demands for what our kids need, because they are just as important as the elder population. And I worry that without making sure that they are well represented, we will see an exodus of this town who are going to go in favor of our neighbors who do have better facilities. And then we take a look at where we are currently, and we look at the fact that there are things like condemned buildings, there are boilers that are failed, there are bleachers that are down. And we ask ourselves, this is the opportunity to create a legacy. This is the opportunity to build something new that can withstand the next 70 years.
30
Let's
seconds.
please take it. Let's please make sure that we listen to all and we incorporate the needs and do something great with this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Rosemary Hyson, followed by Stephen Hall.
Good evening. My name is Rosemary Hyson. I grew up in Casas, but 5 years ago, and then moved away after high school. 5 years ago, I moved with my family back to Old Greenwich. I have a son in 7th grade and a daughter in 5th grade. They benefited from the OGRCC recreational sports programs our first year in town. It allowed them to get a feel for the waters. My daughter is not a sports person, but she has enjoyed the Civic Center, first the playground, several scout meetings that were there, Old Greenwich School's science day that they used to do, where they would have kids could try a whole bunch of different innovative science activities. And then my son has participated in the OGRCC's Thunder baseball team. That's why I was late tonight, because he had a game. Cal Ripken, Thunder soccer, recreational soccer, and Greenwich United. These activities have really meant a lot, and the fact that they're community-based, they're not out of town, they're not kids from all over Southern Fairfield County or Westchester County. He's made connections that served him well when he went from our neighborhood and community at Old Greenwich School to Eastern, and he also encounters kids who live in Central Greenwich, who live in Byram, who live in Glenville. He plays on sports teams with all these kids, and it allows them to make connections across town. It allows us as parents to get to know people throughout this community, and that is very important for our town to be successful. The downside is that the building is limited, the fields are a problem. Merritt, she spoke earlier, she did a fabulous job rescheduling everything, but it really is crazy when you need to all of a sudden rejigger your carpool on a Wednesday afternoon and you're at work because of rain. So I would emphasize trying to improve this existing facility and preserve its uses for multi-purpose space, for the scout meetings and the garden clubs and other community-based activities. But clearly, you've heard loud and clear, I think, that there's not adequate facilities for recreation and sports teams, and there's a big demand for it at all ages. So I would ask, in the plan that was put forward in November, which only included pretty much the existing footprint, that you strongly consider adding a second large space that could be multi-purpose,
30 seconds.
serve athletic uses, as well as be able to be used for some special events. Thank you.
Stephen Hall, followed by Alan Lovejoy.
Hi, my name's Steve Hall. I'm a 20-year Greenwich resident. Fortunately, I live in Glenville, and we have the Western Civic Center. I've been to the Eastern Civic Center, and I share the sentiments of the lady who spoke. It's really, and I think we all know, it's in very bad shape. This is a marvelous opportunity for the town and to really make a mark and for a long time and for the future. And as a member of the Energy Committee, we've just completed a report on our recommendations for looking at energy efficiency of all town buildings and particularly new buildings. I think that this is a wonderful example. We could do a net zero building with the right architectural team, with the right expertise and background. I did some guerrilla math when I saw the RFQ on this project, and we'll be spending roughly $90,000 a year in energy consumption if we build it to code. We can exceed code. We can get, in round numbers, about $150,000 in incentives by exceeding code by just 30%. So why not take a look at this building and see if we can't do a net zero energy? There are many examples around. We have resources of the Connecticut State University. They have great resources to come and support us in these efforts. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Lovejoy, followed by Jeff Negrin.
Thank you guys for the hard work you have put in, because it's a lot of meetings to get to this point and a lot more meetings ahead of you. So thank you for hearing us all. I was born on the 6th floor of Greenwich Hospital. So I guess I'm old school here. Used to go to Ekman Center when I was in 7th grade. That's now the Old Greenwich Civic Center. I got my polio shot at the Civic Center, which is now the Fat Poodle. Civic Center has improved when Electrolux moved out, and the fields were a nightmare then. I raised 3 daughters. All of them were captains of their college athletic teams. So field sports were very important to my children as well as myself. I agree with what that woman said about women's athletics being great. We had a great experience with all 3 of our daughters. I've now got 5 sons, grandsons, and 1 more on the way, so it's kind of interesting. But they're all in other parts of the country, so I've seen other sports facilities, whether it's Fort Worth, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Scottsdale, Arizona, and Ekman Center is not, it's tired when Electrolux built it for their employees, and it's beyond tired now. On the fields, I want to bifurcate really briefly the fields from this center. You need the facility like they have now for the garden clubs and all that stuff. I know you're going to do that. On the fields, my college, which is right near where Scott went to school and college, gets a lot of snow, and they just put in a true turf field with a bubble over it, and I think it cost us about $3.5, okay? And that's a bubbled indoor facility for all you ones that want to play field sports in the winter using a bubble. And if you want to see a bubble, they have one at Innis Arden. They do it over their tennis courts, okay? They make these things big. They're very cost effective, and they're excellent. You can take them down in the summertime if you want to, okay? But that may well solve your field problem without worrying about building another field house. Now, my university has a field house also, but it just didn't work with a true turf court for the guys that want to play spring sports and get ready starting in January like they do in universities. So you had to have the true turf and you had to have the field house, and this way you may be able to do both if you focus on this Ekman Center being what it's supposed to be, a community center with the dance rooms, the art rooms, yes, the stage, and absolutely all that stuff, as well as maybe a basketball court like what we have now, but bring it up to the 21st century. And then on the field side, if you've got 2 full field regulation soccer fields side by side with a massive bubble over it, how cool would that be?
20 seconds.
Thanks very much.
Jeff Negrin.
Hey guys, thank you. My name is Jeff Negrin. I've been living in Old Greenwich for 23 years. I have a wife, a teenage daughter, and a teenage son. Thank you guys for your efforts. As everyone has said, it is certainly appreciated that you're hearing us out. There's one thing in Old Greenwich and Riverside, of course, as well, that we need desperately is space. There just isn't space. There isn't space to park. There isn't space to walk. There isn't space to, somebody got hit by a bike the other day, for those of you that will listen to the Nextdoor app. There just isn't space. We're actually very fortunate that we actually have space to look at, to plan, right? Whatever we're gonna do is up to you guys to help us decide, but at least we have the opportunity with a first generation space to start with. It's time for a next generation space. In a few words, yes to tearing it down, no to rehabilitation, yes to more indoor space, no to excuses for less space, yes to an eye toward modern design, no to an eyesore, yes to multi-use, no to narrow interests, yes to playing actively indoors on a rainy day, no to playing video games passively at home to fill the time. Yes to space for low maintenance activities like dancing and cards and meetings and pancake breakfast and the garden sale, of course. No to a high maintenance ice rink. Yes to room for lots of indoor sports, no to a pool for just one. Yes to playing outside on turf, no to staying inside because of wet grass. Yes to a civic center, no to a civic disgrace. Yes to making space for more useful for all. Yes to doing something, yes to our kids, yes to our adults, yes to our community. No to waiting, no to excuses, no to doing nothing, just do it.
Thank you. So that is our final speaker of the night. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Oh, well, come on up. Yeah, sure. We had it out for quite a while, but that's okay. Come on up.
Sorry, I'm late. Hi, guys. Thank you very much for doing all you do. I know it's been a long time, Gary, and you've probably been doing this for, what, 3 years now?
This for 3, Park and Rec for 8.
Right, but this, just trying to focus on this, which I would like to ask for a round of applause, if you wouldn't mind, for the board. Oh, hi, I'm Daryl DeMakes.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'm the Vice President of the Riverside Association. I'm speaking more about in my own capacity as a resident of Riverside. One of the points that was borne out in the SFA survey was the question of programs that would make households more frequent users of the Eastern Greenwich Civic Center, and they listed 20 things that would make people more likely to come. If you eliminate swimming, theater made it into the top 10, which is kind of interesting. So amongst the talks that we've had over the past 3 years with the Parks and Rec lead, Joe Siciliano, and Al, we talked about the stage a few times, and the comment would come back, it doesn't get used. And there's a reason it doesn't get used, because it's dilapidated. It's in disrepair, and it hasn't been repaired. There's been no money put forward to make it work. And so yeah, it doesn't get used. I think it would get used if it worked. There's a lot of groups in town that compete for space now that would use it. And then another kind of thought was, oh, well, we'll rent a stage when that's necessary. You don't just rent a stage. You rent a stage, you rent lights, you rent curtains, you rent backgrounds, and it's a whole another level of effort than just we'll rent a stage. So I point that out just to say that we've talked about a lot of things, and they're all good things. But I think the stage is something that doesn't get represented well here, because I think people who represent the arts may not think of the Civic Center as a place for the arts. I mean, art, visual arts perhaps, painting, that sort of thing, and someone mentioned a kiln, which I love the idea of a kiln. But the performing arts, I think, are underrepresented, and they had been. I was really trying desperately to find some sort of reference to a band that appeared, and I'd heard that maybe Steppenwolf or some band like that.
The Young Rascals.
Oh, okay, there you go. So they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They came to Greenwich to perform.
30 seconds.
In the Eastern Greenwich Civic Center. So who knows? Maybe we could get
the old Rascals.
The old, the one rascal who's still alive. But anyways, that's my point. And again, thank you guys for doing all you do.
Thank you. Fred's going to come up and speak next.
So I'm Ellen Schubert. Kirk Schubert is my husband. And I also want to thank this group. It's a thankless job. I know very well how thankless it is. You guys volunteer to do this stuff. And we're all here pitching ideas, but you guys are actually there to deliver. And as a volunteer to deliver. And that's very difficult. And I really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate Kirk too. What I want to say is be bold in your deliverable. You have the opportunity to leave a legacy for Greenwich. So in being a volunteer here, you also have a responsibility to be bold in what you do for us. You've heard from all these people, there's a desperate need here in the community to deliver. So I'm not going to talk about all the stuff that should be delivered. I just want you to think beyond the limits here. Don't limit yourself to the 15 million. What wasn't brought up is the OGRCC in their survey, 120 people of the 700 said, please contact me to contribute privately. Please take that opportunity. Kirk and I would absolutely contribute privately to this. So please don't limit yourself to the 15 million. Think beyond. Make sure you deliver what everybody here wanted by reaching out in a private, public way to build something that is a legacy for all of the hours you've already contributed. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. I want to echo what Ellen said. Thank you for what you're doing here. As a former member and chairman of the board, I appreciate all you do, and it is my favorite board. Freddie Camillo, lifelong resident here, and I hate to say it's a 50-year user, basically, as a player, coach, umpire, board member of the field and the old Ekman Center in the basketball leagues. Now, I want to associate myself with the sentiments, but not repeat, with those that were expressed here about two things. Please, no half measures, and to look to the private money, private sector. We have groups like the Greenwich Athletic Foundation and individuals that are willing to come here. There are 168 other municipalities in the state of Connecticut that would love to be in the position Greenwich is, to have people willing to come forward and do that. When I say half measures, we have, unfortunately, some examples here in town growing up. I know Scott remembers, where we've done, piecemeal some facilities, and it's come back to bite us, and we're now looking to get rid of those facilities. So we have an opportunity right now to do it right, do it big, and look to the private sector. Thank you all for what you're doing.
Hi, Patty Roberts. Been here 30 years. Only thing I wanted to say is I guess I'm taking a different tack. We need to keep moving. I'm a little worried being on the RTM where we're going to come up with the money. So I would say think Scottish. Make sure that you're spending your money wisely, and that the building has as many uses as it possibly can, because what popular today may not be popular later on. And so just urge you to not make it so bold that, you know, we end up not getting anything because the budget is tight. That's it.
I might have been on the list right after my cousin Bill, so I got skipped. I'm Jeff Murphy.
I didn't
And
see you on
and
the
if you
side.
didn't, then somebody failed me on sign up. I'm also an
talk
OG.
to Bill.
Well, it's actually somebody else, but I won't point. And I won't keep you long because it's late. Just 2 points from me. I'm a board member of the OGRCC. I'm responsible for the rugby program. Like everybody else, we've had field availability for our little kids at U6 up to U14 at less than 20% of the booked time. Don Moore's been great about trying to find us alternative space, but we've had to spend a lot. And as Salim mentioned, the men's program basically spends their entire budget on field space. I know this isn't about field space. Ellen's points, I think, are excellent, and I would echo them. But what I would also really urge you all to do is really push on your selected vendors, right? Don't let the architects just show you something that they've already done. Don't let them come up with a cookie cutter. Really listen to what everybody's telling you. Think future. Think flexible space, because we've heard lots of different views on what needs to happen in the same space. And I would also really urge you, to the extent that you can do it, not to think about a building and a field, but to think about a campus and treat it as a campus and develop the whole thing. And I'm sure that we can come up with additional monies to help do that and expand the budget. Thanks.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hi. I'm Tatiana Gildersleeve. I've lived in Greenwich for 11 years tomorrow. I lived in backcountry Greenwich, so I did a reno on an old house. You got to do it all at once. So that's that. Now I live in Riverside, and parking is going to be, that's just the traffic already is. Anyone can say it, the traffic, we need parking. Emphasizing arts. We have 2 pillars from Condé Nast. I used to work there, so, gardening, that is very important. And going to the best high school in Brooklyn, the auditorium is where we graduated the police academy, bringing in events, bringing in vendors, trade shows. That is something that will generate revenue, and that's what we should focus on too, is how can we generate revenue through things like trade shows. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Well, not just you. You're important. Come on up. Just pull the mic down for yourself.
Okay. Ooh. If I pull it down as far as I need, it'll come out. Okay, I'm Kathleen Wilsey, and I am a lifelong, and I don't want to tell you how old I am, but it's a lot. I remember Ekman Center. I was there at that concert of the Rascals. Okay?
So was I.
So all I wanted to say is I work for the OGRCC. It's a wonderful community service organization. I've worked for the Girl Scouts. I've worked for the Boys and Girls Club in Greenwich. The community is the heart of Greenwich. Do something. Whatever you do something and let it stand for what we are. We are Greenwich. I don't want people to come here and me be ashamed of my town because we don't do what we need to do. Let's do it, let's get it done, and let it stand for another 50 to 75 years. It's important. The community will use it. Like he said, build it, and they will come. And the community will rally and support you. They're not going to let this fail. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Have we heard from everyone, do we think? Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Our job tonight was to listen to what you had to say. We all took notes, and it's all been, I think it's on Greenwich TV somewhere, so it'll probably end up on YouTube any minute. Also, be aware, there are Parks and Recs meetings monthly that are open to the public. And we do have, this committee does have meetings I know that they can be difficult to find, but they are on the website. I'm not in charge of the website. I wish they could all be front and center, but they can be found, and those are public meetings as well, and everyone's welcome to come to them. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Yeah, no, I've only been, I feel like I got to show this, I've only been here 26 years. I feel like I've been here
Just pick what you want to do.